take a pair of rubber gloves and start scrubbing your face. Would you ever do that to your delicate skin? And yet this is what we do to our vagina. We need to protect her. We need to love her. We need to give her some playground.
Catherine Magee is CEO and co-founder of sexual wellness brand Playground. Along with co-founder Christina Aguilera, Catherine's goal is to build a women-first brand centered around women's pleasure and health needs, helping women learn how better sexual wellness is a key to overall health and happiness.
8 out of 10 women have some kind of sexual health or pleasure issue. Most women are just learning about why that is more important as you age than your skincare.
Playground has been described as a premium skincare for the vagina.
We looked at it like a body part through the lens of health and wellness, and we realized we had a very bold ambition to promote better vaginal health.
Some associated lubricant with getting old.
Can we change the narrative around lubricant? You can't have pleasure if you're in pain. We really need to think about this as our favorite skincare product. By the way, your partner will love you for it.
Expert care for menopause and sexual health, now just a click away. Virtual Care by HerMD offers longer visits, personalized treatment plans, and trusted providers, all from the comfort of home. Learn more at hermd.com. This episode was sponsored by HerMD.
All right, Catherine, how are you?
So good. Always good when I get to see your face and hang out with you.
I know. I love hanging out with you. All right. So what are we going to explore today on The Disruptor? What happens when a beauty industry expert decides to tackle the taboos of sexual wellness? Catherine Magee did just that, creating a brand that's as empowering as it is essential. From boardrooms to bedrooms, Catherine Magee is redefining intimacy with Playground, a brand that's making sexual wellness mainstream. I'm introducing to you a friend, a mentor, a colleague, Catherine Magee, a seasoned executive with over 15 years in the beauty industry, having held leadership roles at brands like Rodan Fields and bareMinerals. As co-founder and CEO of Playground, she's on a mission to destigmatize sexual wellness and create products that empower women to embrace their sexuality as a vital part of their overall healthcare. Welcome, Catherine. You've built a powerful career in beauty and wellness. Looking back, what personal or professional moment sparked your interest in reimagining sexual wellness for women?
Yeah. So number one, I would say I was so fortunate to work at such great, fast-growing businesses with founders that really cared about their brand. Loved working with Leslie Blodgett at bareMinerals, and that just sparked my interest to create beautiful brands for women, and in particular, aspirational brands that make women feel amazing about themselves. I mean, that's why you put on makeup. And then when I was interested in pursuing something different, I really wanted to create that same experience. And when I started looking in women's sexual health and wellness, it's not even that it makes women feel okay, it makes women feel bad about themselves.
Yes.
And this was just so striking for me. You know, one of the things I talk to women all the time is like, whether you're going through menopause or urinary tract infection, this is one of the most common things we go through as women. So how is it a problem? We all have these experiences, and we were, myself and my co-founders wanted to really talk about that and change the way we view this entire category.
You are so spot on. From listening to women for 2 decades, it affects what goes on in the bedroom or wherever you choose to be intimate or not intimate. It affects what goes on at work, our confidence, our pelvic floor health, our mental health. When women are having sexual pain or they have low libido, they feel like they're losing their relationship. They're feeling like they're losing a core part of their identity. And that's why I always argue that sexual health, sexual wellness is healthcare. It's another vital sign for patients. And it's so important for them to define and empower their wellness on their terms. Starting something bold like this, though, Playground. Yes, it takes guts, especially in a space that's still considered taboo. And so what was the first moment you knew that this was more than just a brand and it was going to be a movement?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with sort of the early day challenges. I think coming from beauty, I was a little naive to that. I just assumed you would be embraced to create new products that were innovative and efficacious and really went to solve a problem and that would help to uplift and champion women. And instead, I faced a lot of funny looks. I call it the giggle effect when you get into a VC meeting. They can't even, hold their face straight. So this this lack of focus on this category and sort of the shame around it. You and I could talk about this forever, just the vast impact from low investment into the category as a whole. Inability for us to talk about it means we don't know a lot about it. You talk about sexual health and sexual wellness. Most women are just learning about why that is as important to you as exercise. And then the way I now look at it, 2, 3 years out, is it is as vital and essential and actually more important as you age than your skincare. And so we're learning these things and we just weren't allowed to talk about it. And that's impacted this how we feel about it, how investors look at it, how retailers look at it. And so I think I was one of those early folks like you, where I just kept peeling back the onion and kept, listen, every time I got told no, every time somebody made me feel embarrassed, even people in my whole own family couldn't believe I was doing that. It actually made me more passionate and it drove my passionate. And I think all people like me across the country who've experienced this is what's creating the movement. And I say it's wellness minded women out there today entering perimenopause or in their 20s and saying, why do I need to get UTIs every 4 months, that are all kind of opening their eyes and saying, this is wellness, this is health. And that's creating a movement. And I think we're just at the beginning of this groundswell.
I agree with you. We've seen it happen in menopause, and I think sexual wellness is going to be the big boom. I remember hearing your founding story and crying because of the resistance you got, not only from investors, but from your family, because I know what that's like. And to be so brave, I thank all the people that have supported me, but I'm also so thankful for the doubters, because my mantra was, let people underestimate you and then prove them wrong. And they just fueled, I think, that fire in us. Jokingly, we called it the vagina check. So we would say the word vagina. And if you turned red, you couldn't work at her MD. Like, that was it.
Yeah.
You had to be comfortable in your own skin. And as far as confidence, the best story I have is, we used to have a med spa at all of our locations. And I once had a woman who I treated for sexual pain. And then she was on the med spa side. And I was like, what's going on? And she's like, girl, my face has got to match my vagina. She had unlocked her sexual confidence. It was great.
Yeah, I was going to just add to that. I mean, first of all, even my own personal journey, using that word as an example. I mean, 5 years ago, I felt uncomfortable using that word. It's like we've been trained that that's a bad word and that it gets triggered. It triggers something in you. And then, on the business side of things, for example, that word is highly censored on Amazon, right? So this word that is our female body part has been censored to teach us that this is a shameful word. So my own confidence has built around that as well. And then I would say from a playground perspective, we've been really thoughtful about this too. I mean, we realize that women come from all different places here. And Playground is a brand that's been very intentional to us, that it doesn't matter where you live in the country, if you're in a relationship, if you're not in a relationship, if you have, whatever political belief that you have. The one thing we've all been subject to is shame around sexual health, sexual wellness, and pleasure. And so that's why it's really important for Playground to be this brand that's a little wink, but also really nostalgic and playful so that you can open your, so no matter who you are, you can open up yourself to learn and champion your overall sexual health and wellness. So we hope that builds confidence. Yeah.
Yes, because that takes into account the whole biopsychosocial model of sexuality and why we were so successful with our outcomes, because you're taking into account biology, you're taking into account psychology. What are their thoughts on sexuality and their social, like where are they coming from, and meeting that consumer or that patient exactly where they are in their journey, which is extraordinarily powerful, gives them autonomy, and makes them CEOs of their own health. So I love that. Playground has been described as a premium skincare for the vagina. Getting back to the vagina. How did your background in beauty influence the formulation and branding of your products? And just for a second, that's what I would tell my patients. The vagina is a body part. It's not, we're not even talking about intercourse or intimacy, right? The vagina is also a canal for babies. So the fact that we've made it dirty or shameful, when truly I tell people it's no different than coming in and talking to your doctor about an earache or a headache. Like if there's something going on, irritation, pain, discharge, it's a body part. So I don't want you to have any shame or hesitation to tell me what's going on, because that's how I'm going to figure out what's going on with you. So back to the question, how did your background in beauty influence the formulation and branding of your products?
Certainly. I mean, I think that that's at the very, very cornerstone of Playground, because we took our skincare products so seriously. We really thought about the skin microbiome, the skin barrier, and we look at the skincare industry and have witnessed all sort of the innovation that's been brought to market in how you restore moisture, hydration, how you can age more youthfully. And when we looked at, to your point, we looked at it like a body part. We looked at it through the lens of health and wellness, and we realized that nobody else in our category was doing that either. It was, born out of the perspective of male pleasure. And then with these ingredients and formulas that haven't been reinvented in 50 years, and they've actually never been thought about what does it do to the female body. So we had a very bold ambition to not just make it clean and healthy, but to promote better vaginal health. And so that is at the cornerstone of our business, as well as focusing on women purely, because that's one thing that we hadn't done. Like the vaginal microbiome in the vagina is one of the most delicate, sensitive, infection-prone area of the body. It absorbs more than even your mouth, and it's more susceptible than your mouth. And so I love that you asked that question. And it's really, for us, I say this, the word lubricant, I kind of think it's outdated. It's outdated in the same way that doctors who don't care about vaginal health for sexual health and pleasure reasons. And we're both kind of changing that narrative in that category. But what does our products do? Vaginal dryness and helping women have more pleasure in the bedroom. I don't even want to use the word lubricant. And then the thing is, no one was solving that for women. No one was saying, let's create ingredients that can repair vaginal dryness, restore vaginal dryness, and create better lubricant with really great, and thinking about things like the vaginal cells, water, all those things. I won't go into it, but no one's actually looking at it from the sort of health, wellness, and science perspective. And that gets that we really geek out over that.
No, but for years, the speculum wasn't changed. Think about it. And it used to be solid metal. We recently, got into clear plastic so we could even look at the vaginal walls. But I feel like it was just a drive-by pap smear, and doctors were trained only to look at your cervix and didn't even pay attention to vaginal health unless you were complaining about an infection, pain, or discharge, where you truly do need an exam, because looking at the vaginal tissue, you can tell Is there enough blood flow? Is there a hormonal issue? Is there ulceration? Is there tearing? There's so much you can tell just
Mhm.
by looking at the tissue as part of your examination, which if you are a women's healthcare provider, you need to be doing. You need to look at all the anatomy, both
Right.
external and internal, and not just the cervix. The goal is not just doing a pap smear when you go into your doctor's office.
And I was going to say, this is so exciting to me. And like for someone like me to get to talk to and interface with someone like you, because vaginal tissue, dryness, atrophy, tearing, these are things that you know how to identify that maybe I don't. But guess what? I know the ingredients that can help them. And so just getting the people like us all together to create truly innovative products that can address these issues for women, it's never been done. This is very exciting.
This is so exciting, and it's exactly what I preach about to patients. It's not the doctor or the product. It's not the medication or the procedure. It is a curated option for patients. They might need localized hormone and a lubricant and a
Hmm.
moisturizer, but women
Correct.
should have options. And all of those products, options, treatments, whatever you want to call them, they all work differently. They can work in conjunction together, but you don't have to choose, one or the other. Well, I'm on hormones, so I don't need that. Or vice versa. I'm using a lubricant. I don't need that. That's not true. Everyone's needs are different. Plus, it's your goals and then your own choice as to what you want to do. And I
Right.
agree with you so much. It's all of us together working in our area of expertise and working collectively and kind of amplifying our voices so that we can really make patients, consumers visible, seen, heard, and part of this whole process. So that's why I love working with industry leaders like you as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to go back to your comment about the suite of products that you should be able to use as many or as little as possible, but there is not no one size fits all. And I do think using your skincare routine as a great example. You can go to the dermatologist, you can get things removed from your face, you can do anything you want there, but you still moisturize your skin. There's still so much benefit to topical solutions. And also, gosh, if we change the narrative around lubricant? Because you would not go out in the sun without sunscreen, but if you get dryness throughout your everyday monthly cycle, or when you go in perimenopause, menopause, why aren't we just using it? It increases pleasure. You can't have pleasure if you're in pain. We really need to think about this as our favorite skincare product. And then, by the way, your partner will love you for it.
And so I will, because I would just ask with my patients, once you're talking about such sensitive things, like what's the pushback? What's the holdback? Because, ultimately it's your choice, but I just want to
Hmm.
understand, like, where is that choice
Hmm.
coming from? Some of them have never really been explained the difference between a lubricant and a moisturizer. Some thought
Hmm.
and associated that lubricant with getting old. Because like you said, these things haven't been changed, marketed to, no one's talked about the vaginal microbiome or the health of the vagina in like 50 years.
Hmm.
And so no wonder they have that old narrative in their head. And they're like, oh my God, if I have to grab
Hmm.
that. Or a male partner, like sometimes, we would talk to both in the room because we're addressing issues. And they would say they would take it personally. The male partner would, if it was a male,
Totally.
and say, well,
It's
why does she need
crazy.
that? I'm not doing my job. And I said, no,
Yes.
that's not it. And so I think those were some of the, hesitations that I heard, but I agree with you. It's about education, empowerment, and giving
Yeah.
people a choice and then helping them eradicate that myth. Because I would say the myth of
Yeah.
yesteryear
They're
is that
myths.
lubricants
They're
are for
myths.
old people or your partner doesn't know what they're doing, and really help them step into their sexuality and their confidence. So,
It's a it's and then because we lack the education around health and wellness and our own anatomy, it's really hard for us to break the cycle of these myths, right? And I think that's what we can all do. Go up to any bartender and make a joke about lubricant, and the first thing they'll say is, "Oh, I don't need that," or I don't need that, or she doesn't need that because I do my job. It is unbelievable. And you're like, wait a second, do people not understand that estrogen changes fluidly every month and that's one of the biggest impact? And then what I also think it does is it really shames women who can benefit from it. For example, women in cancer. And now we're shaming women who have already gone through such a huge health issue further. So I think, like, I say that because I think we as women do need to come together and learn and then educate our friends and create. That's what you said. This is why this movement is happening. And it's just going to get bigger and bigger and move faster and faster.
Well, and as cancer is on the rise in this country, but we're surviving from it because of advancing technologies, there's going to be more and more female cancer survivors. And those that identify as female, currently the statistic is 9 out of every 10 is symptomatic when it comes to their sexuality and sexual health. But Catherine, only 1 in 10 is getting that need addressed. What is happening? They're just not getting the information that they need, despite guidelines and recommendations. So breaking into the sexual wellness market comes with its own set of challenges. We know this, whether it's medical or with a product. What obstacles did you face when you first launched Playground, and how did you overcome them?
I think that from a business perspective, not so much a consumer perspective, because I think the consumer is looking for solutions. The consumer has been neglected. They don't want to buy Trojan, named after warriors who rape and pillage, right? They don't want to buy Astroglide. Like, they don't want these type of products. So I think the consumer is learning and wants better product. But what we really see is the lack of investment, capital to be invested in this space. There's just not a huge mandate for any venture firm around women's sexual health, although I think that's starting to change. And then also, we talked about the FDA clearance. When unless you're Pfizer, it's really expensive to get these FDA approvals. So it's hard when you're a small business who, number one, you don't have a venture world who is supporting you. I would argue that, we know 8 out of 10 women have some kind of sexual health or pleasure issue. We have a 6 times greater need than men. Why, if that type of population should be addressed with the same enthusiasm as AI, okay? Because helping our sexual health and wellness and pleasure is going to impact a lot more people than AI in the next 10 years. Now I'm going on, of course.
No, but I love the passion. And it is so true that it affects so many individuals. And yet funding is abysmal. Educational opportunities are not there. And we're still in this, cloud of shame and stigma and taboo. And you and I are on the cutting edge of femtech, which I love because you brought that up and you integrate, femtech and technology into curating your products. But I don't know about you, but I see like the smart tampons. I see the wearables for endometriosis pain. So I get to be a part of all this and I see all this. And then you go into the clinics and you still meet women who can't get a pap smear because, there's no gynecologist or women's healthcare provider, for 200 miles. It just makes me so angry. Like you said, this should be locked onto and accessible and available. And yet we are seeing these, this greater and greater divide of innovation and money and then what's available to people. Yes.
Right. And, I think we face a little bit of sexism here. I hate to say it. And coming from beauty, we didn't have it as much. 98% of decision makers who distribute capital are men. And it's harder for them to understand. If we don't know about our bodies, they know even less about our bodies. And so we have that's happening. And I also think, going back to AI as a kind of a silly example, but investors are willing to really put money on the table today because they believe that that need is going to be in the future. And that's really been a challenge here because, in AI, you're going to invest billions and trillions of dollars, and then the best companies will make it and the rest of them will go away. In our category, there's so many great companies who are onto things, but they're going to go away. The good ones are going to go away. If we don't have we need as many pioneering investors in this category who are interested in non-consensus investment than we do pioneering entrepreneurs.
We do. We need those trailblazers, and we need those investors that have that, line of sight, that vision to grow with us.
Right. And then let's tie that back to the FDA. So these are medical devices in most cases. And so they need this upfront capital in order to create these amazing diagnostics. We are on the cutting edge of things that are really going to help women. I had severe endometriosis, severe adenomyosis, and the only way that could be, firmly confirmed is through surgery, which is crazy, versus now they have new tools
and new technologies. Yes.
And new technology. It's game changing from a health and wellness, right? And of course, we are more, I call it sexual health, wellness, and pleasure, but that's a conversation we still need to have too. You talked about health, longevity. We're living longer lives, and women know that, innately. So they're interested in working out. They're interested in staying youthful. Well, you also need to, when you can maintain better vaginal health as you age, you decrease urinary tract infections, you decrease painful intercourse, you maintain sexual relationship longer, which we need to do because we're not dying at 40 anymore, right?
And your pelvic floor health is 25. Better. Yeah.
That's right.
Yes. But you brought up the FDA more than once, and I've done some work with them. And the one thing that I did not know is because of all the regulations, costs to bring a product or a drug to market is significantly higher for a female, what is designated a female product, because of the testing and what is required of those products and drugs versus bringing an equivocal, product or drug to market for men.
Yeah.
And so yet another barrier to offerings for patients. When I heard that, I think I sat there in shock. I was like, they were giving an example of what it would cost to bring a male product to market versus female. And I was like, no wonder. It's a quicker return on investment for investors, right? It's not that maybe they lock onto the story, but they're more hesitant to give us capital because it costs more to get there.
Well, it's funny because how I joke about like the woman's vagina is very complicated, right? And men's penis is very simple, like, it turns on and off. That's this only functionality. But women, we're more complex, and we need to get wooed and send it flowers. But that complexity is why we're more prone to infection.
Yes.
We have babies down there, right? And so these required tests, there's a reason for them. But yeah, it increases that barrier of entry. But then on the flip side, you would think that we should invest more into it because there are more issues there to solve than just, erectile dysfunction or something. And then also I think the other big thing about the FDA is there's just not a lot of people who've trailblazed it before. So you're kind of walking into this black box to get approval, or, you don't have, there's not a ton of resources out there to help you along. And so that slows things down, and that's very hard for small businesses. Pfizer has those experts, but it's not like beauty products where you can just walk up to any contract manufacturer that's all over the place. So, it's not just working with the FDA and the process and the cost, but it's like, how do you even know what's going to get approved or not approved? That is why the vast majority of lubricant brands and moisturizer brands are white labeled because people haven't been able to figure that out. And we were committed to bringing innovative products to market and then get them FDA. So all of our FDA clearances, they're unique to us. No one's ever been able to get half of the ingredients in it approved.
And I love that because when you work with the FDA, you know, we talk about barriers, but we also talk about like, why are they there? And they're basically there to make sure, right, that products are safe, that there are not a astronomical amount of adverse events, and that products, devices, medications do what they say they're going to do, right? So that the claims are there. So it is a lot of work. Mm-hmm. And I love the fact that you guys have done that work because it not only gives patients the assurances, you know, about their product, but it also shows as a company that you care. You spent the time and the money and the energy and the effort to undertake the FDA clearance, which a lot of people don't do. And so on that note, education seems to be a core component of Playground's mission. Can you tell us about some of the initiatives you've undertaken to foster these open conversations around sexual health?
Mm-hmm. Certainly. We need to close the sex ed gap. Right. So the people, the women and the couples who are using these products today can feel less shame to use them and then help open the door for women and couples who have yet to use them, but that can greatly benefit them, whether it's just to increase pleasure, whether it's because they're in perimenopause, menopause, whether it's their cancer, they're dating again. So that's really like we're a very mission-driven company because of that. And, you know, getting on as many podcasts as possible. My co-founder, Christina Aguilera, plays a huge role in it. That's one of her favorite things about what we're doing, is using her powerful voice to sort of destigmatize the category. She's always been so vocal about empowered sexuality. You know, she's got such passionate stories about that, how that was challenged to her when she was younger. And she's so excited to, like, you know, we have videos with Dr. Emily Morse and Christina and all these people on our website. Go check them out, our social. But it's a really big part of our mission. Last year, we launched a product called Pillow Talk. And this product was really to encourage open conversations about your relationship with your partner. But also what we did is we donate 1% of the proceeds to go to the Center for Intimacy Justice.
Love it.
Who is helping to destigmatize all things sexual health and wellness on social media platforms. And then Christina also we did a 1-800 playground recording for women to call into. And we kind of made fun of the yesteryear, you know, dirty sex talk line, but we turned it on its head, and it's empowering messages for women. So we're Playground. I say if we're going to break the ice, if we're going to help women break the ice in their bedroom, we got to break the norm with that, and we got to do it in a fun and connective way.
Catherine, I can't tell you how much we would laugh with patients because laughter does break the ice, and it is the best medicine. I still believe it. So speaking of which, we're going to do some rapid fire, just fun questions. So favorite way for you to unwind after a busy day? Because I know you're a mama and a founder and a repeat entrepreneur.
Oh.
So what's your favorite way to unwind after a busy day?
This is very new, but I just discovered paddle, which is platform tennis, and I love it.
Oh, I see. I'm a pickler. I love to play pickleball. And I know we both love to dance because we both got to meet out west, you and I, and hit the dance floor. And that was fun. I had so much fun with you. Your dream, you know, I love to travel. Wanderlust is my nickname. What is your dream vacation and why?
Okay, so One of our favorite places to go to is St. Bart's. My mom is French, and so just to have like the Caribbean vibe with so much great French inspiration, that's kind of one of my favorite places to go and decompress and wanderlust.
You and I are on the same wavelength. So I have never been. I turn 50 on July 7th. And guess where I am going to be?
Where?
I'm going to St. Bart's for my 50th.
Oh my God. I mean, great location and great choice.
I was like,
I'll send you some of my favorite restaurants.
Please. I was like, I have a quick, 4 to 5 days. I wanted that kind of south of France or European vibe. I'm like, where can we go quickly? And I was like, I've never been here before. And so we literally booked it over the weekend. It's Monday. I don't know what day we're going to play this, but we're recording this on a Monday, but literally this weekend, that's what we did. How amazing is that? Yes, but I will reach out to you for restaurants for sure, because I'm a foodie and I love to eat too.
Yes.
Describe Playground in just 3 words.
Uplifting, joyful health.
Love it. All right. So the sexual wellness industry has been long marketed to men. We know this not only with products and devices, but direct to consumer products, but even drugs. Like men have 20 some options, and we have 2 FDA approved options right now, often ignoring the needs of women completely. What's something you wish every brand in this space understood, but currently doesn't understand?
In my space, which is over-the-counter vaginal and intimate health, is kind of how we sort of describe it, is that you have to understand a woman's body, and you have to do the science and work with the right people, where you can't, in a category that's so prevalent with white labeling, I just don't think that's going to fly with the consumer in the future.
I hear you. And so there is a huge difference between creating a product for women and creating a brand with women in mind. What are the ways, and we've talked about some technology innovation,
yep.
But what are some of the ways that you're rewriting that narrative completely for future generations? I love it.
I've come from a background where you obsess over what your customers want and what your consumer wants. I mean, when I was at bareMinerals, I used to go in bathrooms and just eavesdrop on girls talking about makeup and just how it made them feel. And how excited were you to talk about your makeup to your girlfriend or someone in the bathroom? And we said, this is the kind of enthusiasm that we want to create in this category, like the shame-free discussion, because it is about health and wellness and longevity. So right out of the gate, we surveyed 20,000 women.
Wow.
And we segmented them by age and by issue, and we asked them questions, and we did surveys, and we do surveys every 6 months to our customer. And we really try to learn about what they want, right? And any industry report out there, I don't even listen to, because they're looking at historical data that I don't even know where it came from. That even growth trends are kind of outdated because they're not there and seeing and talking to people the way we are. So we care a lot about what women want, and then that is what defines our product roadmap. And as a really specific example, our product Naked, or our product Free Love, is clinically proven to decrease urinary tract infections and bacterial vaginosis. I wish I could say that I was genius enough to come up with that, but I didn't. It was just listening to our customers complain about it all the time. And we were like, wow, can't we prevent this? It's 2025. So yeah, just really, really important to us as a business just to listen to our customer.
No, and that's brilliant, because I heard that for years, particularly as you're going into perimenopause and menopause. Even if you controlled the pain, part of genitourinary syndrome of menopause is that they would present with either frequent vaginal or urinary tract infections. And some women would just avoid sex altogether because they'd be like, who wants to deal with the UTI the next day or the day after,
Oh,
whenever they would present? Or they would get on the prophylactic antibiotic, right? Because that was the answer. All right, we'll take an antibiotic every time you have sex. And they're like, well, then I get a yeast infection. So they're like, Dr. Gervais,
right,
this is not working.
right.
So brilliant too. And that's what I said. How did I, people are like, how did you come up with the idea of her MD? You didn't go to business school, you were a doctor. And yes, I had imposter syndrome, but I did like 10 years of field research, right? That was me listening to women and what they wanted and knowing what I didn't know to be able to meet their healthcare needs. And so it was just 10 years of field research, which was really just practicing medicine. And so let's go back to the FDA for a second, because I'm so proud of you and this brand for this, because it was a major achievement to go through that. But it also highlights how little regulation there is, in the space. And so what was most surprising to you about navigating the FDA process? Anything that you can share there?
Mm-hmm. At least for our category, it's a black box. They don't share information of how to get, clearance or approval. You're kind of left to your own devices. There are very few people who can give you guidance how to walk through that. I think that's the most surprising thing, especially for small businesses. I can understand why very large companies, they don't want you small businesses to get access to this education and knowledge and know-how, right? It's a competitive advantage for them. For us, we did our research. We dived in. We understand what ingredients are safe and effective. We've done it with skincare forever. Now, obviously, the vaginal walls are way more delicate, but we kind of took our learnings about the skin microbiome and applied them down into the vaginal walls, and then we did all those stability, sensitivity tests. In fact, we over tested because we knew our product was very net new. My co-founder, business partner, Sandy, storied product developer for skincare, Perricone MD, bareMinerals, one of the head product developers at Sephora. So we came at it from a safety perspective and how to promote vaginal health, like right out of the gate with our team and background. And I would say this, like, we hired a chemist before we even started the business. When you're at a Rodan Fields, you hire a chemist, when you're at 50 million or $100 million. And we did it day one.
And that's my advice to female founders or founders in general. Don't be afraid of the longer road, particularly if you're mission driven like we both are. And to do it the right way. You want to do right by your consumer. You want to do right by your patient. It may be the longer road initially, but I think later it saves you a lot of heartache and headache to do things the right way. And so looking ahead, what is your vision for the future of sexual wellness, and how does Playground fit into that landscape?
Yeah. So kind of going back to your saying, one of the early things that we did is made a decision to focus on women. And that made we've learned by focusing on narrowing down that focus, then we learned a lot more. But I can't tell you how many retailers, investors, partners who are like, when are you going to start focusing on men, right? It's like they still want to sort of move you in that direction. So we're very much focused on women because we see that 8 out of 10 women need these products, and that is a massively huge market that's vastly unmet. And that we really want to focus on over-the-counter vaginal health and intimate health products that help to relieve and reverse these symptoms. So yeah, maybe we do products that go outside of the body. Those don't need to be FDA approved. So this sort of sweet spot of like, we're not afraid of the FDA, we're not afraid of innovation. We want to improve vaginal health, wellness, vaginal aging. We want to focus on that. We can do it with their face. Why can't we do it down there? That's what we're really excited about right now.
Awesome. And I've seen products and I use some devices that you can. I mean, a 50-year-old is not going to walk out with a, 21-year-old vagina, but there are definitely things you can do for collagen, elastic, like let's just set it,
Totally.
expectations, realistically, but there are absolutely things that you can do to restore collagen, elastin, blood flow, and help reverse some of that. Yeah, I hate the word atrophy, but that thinning.
We gotta rebrand.
We got to rebrand
word.
that word. I agree with you. I mean, GSM is part of it, but yeah, atrophy is one of those very triggering words that nobody wants to talk about. That, yeah.
And then just because you keep, I bring up the skincare and you brought it up, but like it's an analogy that women understand, right? If you didn't use moisturizer on your face for the last 20 years or sunscreen, what do you think the difference is at? There's a before and after there. So yes, you can focus on it or take a pair of rubber gloves, like a condom, and start scrubbing your face. I mean, would you ever do that to your delicate skin? And yet this is what we do to our vagina. We need to protect her. We need to love her. We need to give her some playground.
I love that so much. And so our takeaways from your two disruptors that you have today are embracing sexual wellness is a fundamental aspect of your overall healthcare. Seek out products, devices, medications, providers that prioritize both safety and pleasure, engage in open conversations, and help to break down stigma surrounding intimacy. As always, Catherine, it's been amazing to talk to you. Can you please tell listeners where we can keep up with you, where we can keep up with Playground, and what you guys are up to with this movement of destigmatizing intimacy?
Well, we have some amazing new products launching soon, so stay tuned for that. And you can follow us on Instagram at hello.playground or go to our website at helloplayground.com.
Amazing talking to you today, friend.
Yes. Yes, I get to see you soon. Yay.
Yay.